The story of USS Tang and her commander, Lieutenant Commander Richard O'Kane, is one of those wartime sagas that seem too dramatic to be true. It was June 24, 1944, about 150 miles southwest of Kagoshima, Japan, when O'Kane pressed his eye against the periscope in Tang's control room and watched a convoy so vast it made his blood quicken. 6 massive Japanese cargo ships guarded by 16 escorts. A steel armada slicing through the dark waters, oblivious to the predator lying in wait. O'Kane had stalked them for hours, adjusting Tang's position with mathematical precision, calculating angles and distances until the geometry of destruction was perfect. Behind him, 87 men held their breath. Each knew that when the first torpedo left its tube, the ocean itself would erupt in chaos. O'Kane was no ordinary captain. He was the protege of Commander Dudley "Mush" Morton, the legendary skipper of USS Wahoo. Where Morton fought with raw aggression, O'Kane fought with science. He measured everything, speed, bearing, and depth, turning the deadly art of submarine warfare into a formula. The boat he commanded was equally exceptional. USS Tang, a Balau-class submarine, was America's newest masterpiece of underwater engineering. 3 to 11 feet of high-tensile steel, capable of diving to nearly 450 feet, equipped with 10 torpedo tubes and powered by diesel engines that could push her to 20 knots on the surface. With 24 torpedoes on board, she was a silent, self-contained factory of destruction. When Tang was launched in August 1943 from Mare Island, the United States had finally learned how to build submarines faster, stronger, and deadlier than ever before. Her commissioning that October made O'Kane, then 32, one of the Navy's rising stars. He had served under Morton on Wahoo, participating in the patrols that terrorized Japanese shipping before Wahoo's tragic loss. Morton's death hit O'Kane hard, but it forged in him a resolve as sharp as a blade. He would honor his mentor not through reckless courage, but through flawless execution. The Pacific War at that point was a battle of attrition. Japan's empire stretched thin, its supply lines the arteries that kept its war machine alive. American submarines were learning how to cut those arteries, and O'Kane was among the surgeons. Early in the war, U.S. submarines had been crippled by faulty torpedoes that ran too deep, failed to explode, or detonated prematurely. For 2 years, commanders risked their lives firing duds while bureaucrats insisted the weapons worked perfectly. Only after relentless field tests did the truth emerge, and by late 1943, the torpedoes were finally fixed. For O'Kane, it meant his boat could now fight with reliability and precision, armed with weapons worthy of his skill. When Tang left Pearl Harbor for her first patrol in January 1944, the Pacific had become a graveyard for Japanese shipping. Her first target fell within weeks, a freighter split apart by a clean spread of torpedoes that struck like lightning. Days later, she destroyed 2 more, the night sky illuminated by explosions that rolled across the sea. By the end of that patrol, Tang had fired 24 torpedoes and sunk 5 ships totaling 18,000 tons. The numbers told a simple story. O'Kane's new boat was rewriting the rules of naval warfare. Tang's second patrol was quieter, but no less significant. While American carrier planes bombarded the Japanese fortress of Truk, Tang surfaced under fire to rescue 22 downed pilots from the sea, an act of courage that earned her crew a Presidential Unit citation. O'Kane's boat wasn't just a killer, it was a savior too. But her third patrol would elevate her legend beyond anything seen before or since. Operating in the Yellow Sea, O'Kane hunted in waters so close to Japan that even the bravest captains hesitated to enter. The sea was shallow, heavily patrolled, and filled with mines, but it was also the lifeline of Japan's empire. In those waters, Tang became death itself. On June 24, 1944, O'Kane spotted the immense convoy, 6 transports shielded by 16 escorts. He stalked them patiently, using Tang's radar to position himself directly in their path. When the range closed, he fired 6 torpedoes. The explosions were almost simultaneous, a thunderous roar that tore the convoy apart. 4 ships were destroyed in minutes, the greatest single-strike success of any American submarine in the entire war. For O'Kane, it was the moment his training, intellect, and nerve aligned perfectly. He had turned the mathematics of war into art. Each torpedo represented months of Japanese labor, tons of supplies, and thousands of troops, gone in seconds beneath the waves. Within days, he sank more ships, including troop transports and tankers, until by the end of the patrol, Tang had annihilated 10 vessels totaling nearly 40,000 tons. The feat stunned even the Navy. No submarine had ever accomplished so much in so short a time. But O'Kane wasn't finished. He asked for more dangerous waters, the coast of Honshu near Tokyo itself. In August 1944, Tang prowled Japan's home waters like a phantom, sinking freighters, patrol craft, and tankers almost within sight of the enemy's homeland. He used every weapon at his disposal: torpedoes, deck guns, deception, and patience. His tactics were surgical, his timing immaculate. By September, Tang's record stood unmatched: 31 confirmed kills in just 4 patrols. She had become the most successful submarine in American history, and her crew the most decorated in the Pacific. On September 24, 1944, O'Kane set out on Tang's 5th and final patrol, bound for the treacherous Formosa Strait. It was here, amid the maze of mines and enemy escorts, that fate delivered both his greatest triumph and his undoing. On October 23 and 24, Tang attacked 2 massive convoys, firing salvo after salvo through a wall of enemy fire. Ships erupted in flames, tankers exploded like volcanoes. By dawn, 13 enemy vessels had been sent to the bottom. No other submarine in history had ever destroyed so many ships in a single patrol. Then, as the crew prepared to fire their final torpedo, the 24th disaster struck. The torpedo left the tube cleanly, but veered in a deadly circle. Before O'Kane could react, it slammed into Tang's stern, detonating beneath the very compartment from which it had been fired. The explosion tore the submarine apart. Men were thrown against bulkheads. Compartments flooded instantly. Tang sank to the bottom in 180 feet of water, trapping 30 sailors alive in the forward section. In total darkness and under crushing pressure, they attempted a desperate escape using primitive breathing devices. Only 5 made it to the surface alive. O'Kane himself had been thrown into the sea by the blast, one of only 9 survivors. They were captured by Japanese escorts, many carrying wounded sailors from the very ships Tang had destroyed. The Americans were beaten and tortured, but even their captors recognized the skill of the man who had inflicted such devastation. O'Kane endured the war as a prisoner, returning home in 1945 to receive the Medal of Honor from President Truman. The statistics of Tang's brief life are staggering. 33 confirmed ships sunk totaling 116,000 tons, 4 battle stars, 2 presidential unit citations, and the highest combat record of any American submarine. Her career lasted barely 9 months, yet her impact helped cripple Japan's ability to fight. Submarines like Tang sank more than half of Japan's merchant fleet, over 4 million tons of shipping, and strangled the empire's economy long before atomic bombs ended the war. Richard O'Kane lived until 1994, long enough to see his name etched among the Navy's immortals. In his quiet dignity, he never celebrated the destruction he caused, only the professionalism of his crew and the sacrifice of those who never came home. USS Tang rests today on the seabed of the Formosa Strait, her hull still sealed around the men who made her legend. Their story is not one of tragedy alone, but of perfection achieved and paid for in full. They showed that courage and intellect could turn steel and circuitry into something greater, a weapon so efficient that it rewrote the outcome of a war. The legacy of Tang endures not just in naval history, but in the timeless truth that mastery and sacrifice often walk hand in hand. So, what do you think about the fate of USS Tang? Was it destiny that such a legendary crew met their end by their own weapon or the cruel randomness of war? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story as gripping as we did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more forgotten legends of courage beneath the waves.